Okay, why the heck is my image backwards? Give me one sec, guys. Let me figure this out. There we go. Okay, that's a little better. Alrighty, hello everyone. So today I am going to be doing a tier list for all the Jump to Lightspeed cards. That being said, I think I'm going to play one quick game on Carabast real quick so that I can give people a chance to get in before I start the tier list. But I'm going to go ahead and go through all the Jump to Lightspeed cards. We're going to rank them all. And yeah. In the meantime, let's just play a game of Tark and Blue, just so I can get people in chat. I figure people would probably want to watch this from the beginning, so... Hope everyone's doing well on this Friday. Hope all my fellow Midwesterners are staying out of the snow because it's getting kind of gross outside. Yeah, I managed to, I'm hoping that the snow doesn't last too long because I do have a tournament I'm going to tomorrow. I've got a sealed tournament where the winner gets a showcase Cad Bane. And I'm really excited to play in it. And I'm hoping the snow isn't too bad tomorrow morning, because that would be really annoying to have to deal with my like hour 15-minute drive south. Let's see, we are against Palpatine. First turn Pershing's pretty good. We don't have initiative, so you could power the dark sided, but I think that's, we're just gonna accept that. Accept that risk. Elspeth's pretty good. Commando Squad's pretty mid. We're probably gonna resource that for sure. And then I guess probably the OB. OB isn't good into Palp because he's not gonna have units for us to kill till a lot later in the game. So this and this. Put Pershing down and pass. Advanced isn't bad. Pershing, unfortunately, is not an official, so Royal Guard won't have it up right away. Let's see. Resourcing. Are we going to want to play Advanced or Elspeth? It really depends on what he does. We could put another OB down. That's fine. Okay. What do I want to do with that? I think we play the Royal Guard and then draw a card with that. And we'll pass. Unfortunately, Power, we aren't in a very good spot to play right now because they have so many units out and some of them don't really do anything. I'll be interested to see if he opens with a pop or just... Okay, he opens with a Battle Droid attack. That's fine. Really want to get rid of the Poggle, which probably means we play the Advanced. He can use the Droid Commando and the Poggle to kill, which is annoying, but I think it's just what we're going to have to deal with. This is kind of a bad matchup for us, unfortunately. Not as bad as Palp Blue or Palp Double Green, though, to be fair. We are still going to take out Poggle. We can't give him a bunch of free units or he's just going to draw a bunch of cards. And that's just super problematic for us, so... It is a little unfortunate we had to put so much resources into breaking his board early. But I think it just kind of is what it is, unfortunately. Interesting that he's taking so long. Usually this is a turn he'd try and put a ramp card in play. So I'm assuming that he doesn't have a ramp card. Otherwise it'd probably be Windmill Slam here. Next turn, I probably want to put Morgan down and then marker something. We get a double marker off. Or Kiadi might be good. Maybe we flip and then Kiadi. Because he's still only going to be on 5 or 6. Is the guy still there? Did he go somewhere on me? Is Carabas being weird? What is going on? I don't need that. I'm gonna unfreeze it. Oh, nope, he left. Alright, well, we'll get a full game in. Let's just jump on this. Alright, all ready to go. We're playing against Afra. This hand is not as strong as our other one, but it's probably good enough so we're not going to mulligan. We're probably going to put a Royal Guard and the Power of the Dark Side down. Turn 2 Fighter plus marker. Turn 2 Royal Guard, I'm assuming is what we're going to do. Actually, I play Triple Legion in this deck. I can put that down. I won't need that for a while if I do end up needing it. So I'll play the Fighter. I'm assuming he'll claim. We will experience and pass. Veers isn't in a good spot here because he has Greedo out already, so we'll get rid of that. We're probably going to end up playing the Client here. That's a little bit better. Resupplies, that's fine. There's our Super Laser Tech. So we could Super Laser Tech and Experience. We don't really need the tech though. Unfortunately, we don't have a way to like trigger it right away. The other option will be Royal Guard. Maybe we do just Super Laser Tech just so we have it out there. In which case we get rid of this. Oh, I wonder what they're gonna make me discard. I'm glad I kept the Super Laser now though, because now I have 2 plays this turn. He's probably gonna discard Barrage. He discarded Power. That's so weird. I'll trade this Greedo off. That's fine. Be efficient about it. How did she get... Oh, she resupplied. That's fine. That's okay. It's not really that big a deal for us. We will experience the fighter. Oh, he's gonna take my Super Laser Tech? Nope, he took that. Okay, Forta base, obviously. That's fine. Geez. I guess we play this now because it's a Sentinel because we have Client. Little past Incinerator Trooper turns, we'll put that down. For anyone that's coming into the chat, I'm going to be doing the tier list after this game. I just wanted to do a couple... Well, that's annoying. Okay, we're gonna experience Client because then he can trade with Afra. That's fine. Flip. It is annoying that unfortunately Maul is going to get to like hit us again here, but it is what it is. Maul's gonna get to take out Tarkin, but I don't really have a good way around it, so we don't need more Super Laser Techs. We don't really need to go higher than 7 in this. I mean, we're doing really good damage to the base with this TIE Fighter. Oh, that's annoying. That's gonna kill... Oh, that's actually better. Hilariously. Let's kill Maul. We'll play a Viper Probe Droid. Alright, so he's got a Reinforcement Walker next turn. That's kind of fine. I actually think I'm just gonna stack it all on the fighter. Just make a giant fighter. Ooh, there's another Interceptor too. Sucks that we can't play both of these this turn though. Given that fact, we'll put Morgan down. At this point, we're just trying to win in space. That is fine. We're just going to keep spreading out the damage up here. He's actually just dead. Got overwhelmed by the TIE advances. Alright, still not a lot of people in chat. I'm going to run one more. And then we will start up the... Actually, you know what? I changed my mind. We're just going to go into the Jump to Lightspeed tier list, and people can always go back in the VOD if they want to check out the thing. I'm also going to probably edit this and do just like a regular video as well, because it's pretty fun. And we'll see. We've only got a couple more cards left. I just kind of wanted to do it now. Just because I was getting impatient, honestly. Originally, I was going to wait until after we got all the cards, and then I was going to make the tier list, but whatever, it's fine. So down here we have all the Jump to Lightspeed cards that have been revealed so far. Actually, I think the ones from today might not be on here, but I'll throw the last couple on here when we get them. And then for tiers, I have S tier, which is a format definer. There aren't going to be very many of those cards, I'll tell you right now. These are things that like literally you play a deck. You can play a whole deck because of it. Cards like Triple Dark Raid are format defining cards. Super Laser Tech is a format defining cards, Darth Vader, things like that. Things where like you can basically like build a whole deck around them. Tier 1 is 3 of in most decks, so these are cards you're probably going to play 3 of if you're playing those colors. They're just generally like the good cards you're always going to have in your deck. 2 is commonly played cards. This is a card you're going to see in your deck a lot, but it's not a 3 of. It's not like one of those cards you instantly put in. Might be something you cut at some point, or you kind of decide you're only playing 1 or 2 of. 3 is rarely played card. So this is a card that'll see play, but mostly because there's no other options to it kind of thing. Mercenary Gunship is an example of a rarely played card. For a commonly played card, like a good example would be, let's see, what's a good example of in the card? So something like a Viper Probe Droid or a Death Trooper. That's a good example of something. You're pretty much always going to play 3 of that. Or you're pretty much always going to play that card, but it might not be a 3 of, and it's not something you're going to build your deck around. 4 is not played says useless cards. The only time you'll ever actually... I can't spell useless. Whatever, I'm not fixing it. Useless cards. These are cards where you're only really ever going to play them in like draft or sealed. You won't ever play them in constructed. And then I always put a separate thing for tech cards. These are going to be cards that don't really fit into these, but you'll play them in specific situations. A lot of times they're in the side deck, or it's something you bring in like specifically for certain matchups. It's probably something not main deck, and if it is main deck, it's maybe like a one of that you just end up using sometimes in certain metas. Very meta-dependent cards. All right, so obviously these are going to be a little small to read on here, so I'm going to be bouncing back and forth between the unlimited page. They are in order, though, so it should be pretty easy to go. First off is Director Krennic, which is my favorite card in the set, probably. I bet you can guess where this is going. So it's a 2-cost, 2/2 shielded. The first unit you play each round that has a win defeated ability costs 1 less. So not only is this a 2/2 shielded, which is already stats that are good enough to play on their own, given the fact that we play cards like that already. It is also Imperial, it's an official, and it has a resource reduction effect. This card is possibly the best card in the set. It is so insanely good. And as of such, it is a format definer. This is a card where you will build a deck specifically because of this card. Oh, one more thing. Sorry, I forgot beforehand. We're only ranking the cards, not the leaders and the bases. I'm going to do that separate in a separate video. So these are going to be the cards by themselves. Next, we have Onyx Squadron Brute. This is a 2-resource 2/3. Simply has a win defeated, heal 2 from base. This is very strong. 2/3 is a really good stat line for a 2-drop, and just heal 2 is very, very good. This is very similar to like the Star Viper, except you don't have to worry about like finagling yourself to have initiative. It just will always heal 2. It also plays very, very well with the other win defeated effects in the deck. So I'm going to put this, it's definitely tier 1 or tier 2. For now, I'm going to put it in tier 2 just because it's fighting with some other really good cards in that slot. But I might move that up to a tier 1. It's very on the fence. It's also Imperial, which is a good attribute to have. Next, I have Interceptor Ace. So this is a 3-mana pilot, and for those of you that don't know what pilot, it basically you can play it as a unit to the field, or you can play it as an upgrade to a vehicle. That being said, upgrades can be defeated, so those how do we get rid of and stuff like that. But these cards are very strong because they have 2 ways to be played. So let's first look at the unit ability. So 3 resource, 2/3 with grit, which is subpar. That is not particularly good. Something like this you would hope for 3 resources would be like a 2/4 or 3/3. That being said, it also has piloting for 5, which is a lot. It's a +2, +3, and gives it grit. I don't think this card is very good. The only card you'd maybe play this in is Kira, just because you can damage it and give it a shield. But even then, it's pretty mid. This needed to be like a 2-cost unit in order for this card to see much play. So for that, it's going in not played useless. Just because like it kind of sees edge case in one deck, I don't think that's good enough to move to a rarely played. This has to be more generic. So it's going to go in there. Next up, we have Iden Versa. So she has a 4-resource 4/3 shielded. Once again, it's a pilot. Pilot for 5. When this attaches to the unit, give it a shield, and it's +3/+3. So this is a lot better. It's still kind of on the fence. 4/3 shielded for 4 is okay. It's not amazing. It's not terrible. With the introduction of indirect damage, I think shielded gets a decent amount weaker though. But we will see. I don't think it's terrible. I think it's something that maybe might get played at some point, but it's definitely not fantastic. And it's definitely not something you'd ever put like a 3 of in your deck or anything like that. So I'm going to put it in rarely played. I definitely could see it in a deck, but it's not like particularly amazing. Next up we have the Banshee. Oops, one sec, there we go. Banshee, which is a 5 resource 4/5. On attack, you may deal damage to a unit equal to the amount of damage on this unit. So yeah, this is bad. Not only does it have to attack, it has to be damaged also to get its effect, and its stats aren't even particularly good. It's Separatist, which is kind of cute, but yeah, overall, this card's just not going to get played at all. Alright, next up we have the Corvus, which is a 5 resource 4/5. Has Restore 2. You may attach a friendly pilot unit or upgrade to this unit. And then you defeat all upgrades on the pilot and remove all damage from it. So this is interesting. The stat lines are okay. It's kind of like a bigger version of... shoot, I'm not going to be able to remember. There's a light side 4 cost 3/5, I think it is, Restore 2 ship. And it's very similar to that. Notably, it's a capital ship, which does have benefits in this set. And like Restore 2 is not bad. The wind plate is kind of okay. Like you can take a pilot off something that is going to die, or a pilot maybe you played it on the ground earlier in the game. It does heal the pilot, which is really nice. I can see this maybe seeing an edge case play, but I don't think it's particularly amazing. I feel like if it does see play, it'll be for the capital ship property, so it's going to go in rarely played. Ooh, should I rank these in actual order too? Okay, it's definitely worse than Iden. And that's definitely worse. Okay, so this would be, in my opinion, the order of them as well. We'll do that too for fun. We'll see how long it sticks around. Alright, next we have the Chimera, which is a very, very good card. So, it is a 6 resource 5/6. When played, you may use the When Defeated ability on another friendly unit. Also, when defeated, create 2 TIE Fighter tokens. So, let's look at all the good things on this. Imperial Capital Ship, 2 good tags. 6 mana 5/6 is okay. However, keep in mind anything with the When Defeated ability can tie together with Krennic, so this could cost 1 less. Either way, using a When Defeated ability on play is really, really strong. This is going to be another one of the decks that cards that you can like build a whole deck around. That being said, I don't think it's as strong as Krennic. I don't think it's a format definer. I just think it's a really good card that's going to go in a lot of decks. So I'm going to put it in, and 3 of in most decks are commonly played. This is tough. This one's definitely on the fence. I think it's going to go in commonly played, and it's going to go higher than the TIE Fighter. I don't see it necessarily being a 3 of, except for its like very specific own deck, but it's close. That one might actually get moved up because I have really high opinions of the Chimera. Next up we have Fleet Interdictor. It is a 7 resource 6/6. Sentinel. When defeated, you may defeat a space unit that costs 3 or less. This isn't particularly good, honestly. It costs too much for what you get. Sure, the Sentinel is good, but the When Defeated is pretty mediocre, and like Darth Vader is a 7 cost, right? Like that's Maul is a 7 cost. Those are kind of the cards we're looking at when it comes to how expensive this is. So even with the like reduction off Krennic, it's probably not worth playing. So this card is going to go in the not played useless. I do think it's probably better than these two, but yeah, it's definitely not particularly good. Next up we have No Glory, Only Results. 5 resources, take control of a non-leader unit and then defeat it. This card's amazing. It's very, very strong. If you're playing blue back, you're probably almost always playing this card as a 2 or a 3 of. It is basically a fully upgraded Vanquish, and Vanquish sees play already. Also, the fact that you get to take your opponent's win defeated abilities is very strong. Especially in this set, there's a couple win defeated abilities that are really, really good. I'd even thinking taking things like Ruthless Raider and P38 isn't bad. I can't defeat leaders just like Vanquish, but this is just going to be a very, very strong. And I do believe that most decks that play it are going to be 3 of or 2 of for sure. So I'm going to put it in tier 1. You know what? Let me change this. I want to change 2 or 3. There we go. Because some things, especially like bigger things, you're not necessarily going to play as a 3 of, even though it'll be like always in your deck. I suppose I can fix this too. I forgot an E. Alright, perfect. Alright, I fixed my grammar too. That's always good. Next up we have Harrison Nula. 2 resource pilot. The ground stats are 2-3 with restore 1, which is very strong. That's the Krull stats, and we already use that guy a lot. Sure, he has the ability to like take a card, but a 2-3 ground you can play turn 1 with restore 1 is just a very solid card. One thing to note is this is a Spectre, so it works with the Hera Leader and all the other Spectre cards, which we did get a couple of in this set, so that is a good tag. Piloting for 2 gives +2/+3 and restore 1. That is really good for 2 resources. Like, giving 2-3 stats for 2 resources is just very strong, and it also gets restore 1, which is also just really solid. This is a really solid card. I think a lot of light side decks are going to be playing this as their like early game play, just because the piloting on it is so cheap for so many stats. It's just a lot of stats to give, and it's really, really like has a lot of utility and has restore. I think this card is a 2 or 3 of in most decks. I think some people might be a little surprised by that, but this card just does a lot for a very cheap cost, which is something like the key markers of a card that gets played a lot. Alright, so next set we have Paige Tico. So she is a 2-cost pilot again. On the ground, she has no effect, but she's a 3-2. So 2 resource, 3-2. Perfectly fine, perfectly playable. Her piloting for 2 is +2/+2. Attached unit gains on attack. Give an experience token to this unit, then deal 1 damage to it. That's such a weird piloting effect, isn't it? Like, essentially what you're doing is every attack the unit permanently gets +1 attack, which isn't bad. Like, that's very solid. And it's another one where it's a 2-cost unit with a 2-cost piloting with solid stats. So those cards are just always going to be pretty strong for the only reason of you just get a bunch of extra utility and you can just kind of use them for whatever you need. Very, very low cost adding them to your deck. I don't think she's going to be a commonly played card. Honestly, right around the same as the TIE Fighter. I'm going to put her in front of it, I think. I don't think she's as good as Hera, but I think she's still really, really solid. Next up, we have Cassian Andor, one of my favorite new characters. He is a 3-resource, 3/4 with no effect. That's still solid. That's like the current stats for a 3-drop is a 3/4. Piloting for 2, +1/+3. And when it comes to enhancements, it definitely like pays to have more health than attack, just because that means it sticks around for longer. Alright, so piloting for 2, attached unit gains on attack, discard a card from the defending player's deck. If that card costs 3 or less, draw a card. So this is pretty solid. Being a 3-drop is kind of a little sketch, because like having a 3/2 on 2 is just kind of whatever. It trades with like most of their 2-drops. But 3-drops, a lot of time you want to actually be impacting the board when you play them. You're going to draw a card, I would say probably a little less than half the time. Probably about 40%, I would assume. It really depends what deck you're playing against. If you're playing against like a really low to the ground aggro deck, then you're going to draw a lot more cards. And a lot of this card's power comes from that draw too. So I would say this is a really meta-dependent card and something you probably would side deck a decent amount, more than something you'd always just include in your deck all the time. Sorry, if you hear me pause, it's because I'm taking a drink. There's going to be a lot of talking for the next like hour and a half. But yeah, so this card is solid. It is bordering on a tech card, I think, but it is a little better than just a tech card. Does this go in rarely played or in tech cards? I would say it's pretty close to the power level of Iden, so I'm going to put it in rarely played, but at the top. I don't think it's as strong as any of these. It could arguably go in tech as well, because certain decks it's obviously going to be really strong against. But we'll put it in rarely played for now. Next up we have the Red Squadron X-Wing. Hi Panda, how's it going? The Red Squadron X-Wing is a 3-cost 3/4, so on stat line. When played, you may deal 2 damage to this unit if you do draw a card. This card's incredible. This card is so good. I'm pretty sure light side decks that run blue will be playing 3 of this card guaranteed. 2 of this card at minimum. It's a vehicle. It comes down on 3. If you want the stats, you can take them. Otherwise, you can draw a card. Like, just think about it this way. Like, if you had a 3 resource 3/2 draw 1, you're pretty much always going to play that, right? And this has this with a possible upside in case you do need the health. You can pilot it, which is really good. It's just a really, really, really good card. This card is not a format definer because you wouldn't make a deck for it. It's just really, really strong. So it's going to go in 2 or 3 of in most decks, and I'm putting it at the top. It doesn't build around a whole deck, but it basically makes every single deck that you would put this card in better. Next, we have, oh boy, Dakar Cargo Frigate. This is a 5 resource 6/7, so we're above stat line, which is kind of nice. This unit gets -1 attack for each damage on it. Unfortunately, this isn't good enough, honestly. Like, I'm not even sure if a 5 mana 6/7 would get played. It might. That is a lot of stats, but the fact that it gets weaker the more damage it takes is just not very good. This is something that like you might play in a draft, but other than that, you'd never play. It's probably better than this stupid thing, though. At least it's got good stats to start with. Next up, we have Gold Leader, which is a 6 resource 5/5. So, little below average, but not terrible. Shielded. And then when this unit is defending, the attacker gets -1 attack. This is neat. Rebel Vehicle Transport. Could this be the top end of like a Rebel deck? Maybe, but overall, basically, you're getting like a 6 resource 5/5 shielded, which isn't probably enough. This needed to do a little more, like be -2 attack maybe. I mean, it's cute, but your opponent can just ignore it or beat it with an effect or something. It's not like they have to attack into it. So unfortunately, I believe Gold Leader is going to be a not played. Let me reset this. Okay. Next up, we have You're All Clear, Kid. It's a Gambit. I don't think that has any relevance to anything I can think of. But it is 2 resource, defeat an enemy space unit with 3 or less remaining HP. If you do and your opponent controls no space units, you may give an experience token to a unit. This is actually pretty strong. An effect like this probably needed to be 2 resource. If it was any more, it wouldn't be playable. But it's going to be pretty common, especially with this set being out, for there to be a space unit with 3 or less remaining HP. And in which case, like, 2 resources to kill 3 or less remaining HP is pretty good. You're going to be getting even trade on resource normally, if not more. And if you give the experience, it's definitely overrate. Like, imagine, like, you get initiative, you go first, you play a space, they play a space. Then You're All Clear, Kid, kill their space, give your guy a experience. You're just going to be way up on tempo. That being said, it's not, like, broken or anything. It's just very, very solid and a good card. I'm going to put this in, ooh, is it commonly, I think it's commonly played, but like low on the commonly played. It's border 2/3. I definitely think we'll see it. because of the massive upside that comes with it, but it's not broken, and as the game goes, it doesn't get quite as good. That being said, it's still very solid. Next, we have Academy Graduate. It's a 2-resource, 1/2 Sentinel, which is honestly pretty solid, just to be able to throw it out there. Piloting for 2, +1/+2, and give it Sentinel. Wow, is this card good? This card's so weird. It is Imperial, which is nice. So basically it's like slightly understated, but you have the option to give Sentinel to space or ground. We do have equips right now that cost like 2 that give 1/1 Sentinel, which is pretty similar to this, although this doesn't need a unit to be played. You also can just play this, but it's like a late game card. It's not something you're going to want to play right away. This one's a little tricky. I think this one is rarely played. I think it's possible we might see it once or twice. This could also be a tech card. You know what? I'm going to put this in tech card for 2 reasons. One, it's not light or dark side, so there's a lot of decks you can play this in. And it's basically just really good against aggro decks. Whether you want to like clog up sky or ground, you can give Sentinel either way. So I'm going to put this in tech. This feels like a side deck card. Next we have Desperate Commando. 2-resource, 2/2, so understated. When defeated, give a unit -1/-1 for this phase. That's bad. Easy filler card, bad. Landing Shuttle, 3-resource, 2/4. It is Imperial. When defeated, draw a card. Ooh, this is really similar. Man, blue is really getting a lot of draw power. This is very, very similar to the Red Squadron X-Wing. I do think it's not as good because you don't get the card draw right away, and having 2 attack rather than 3 attack matters too. But the 4 defense is also really good. Man, that's another really solid card. I don't think it's as good as the X-Wing. I think it's commonly played. We'll put it right around here. It's definitely a card that could see play. And being when defeated is actually really good too, actually, now that I think about it, because you can combo it with all the when defeated effects. So, is it still... Yeah, we'll put it in commonly played. That's fine. I don't think it's a 2 or 3 of automatically like these ones are, but it's definitely very solid. Next up we have Direct Hit, which is a 4-resource, defeat a non-leader vehicle unit. I'm pretty sure this is just a tech card. I don't think this is better. Like, you're paying 1 less to, like, not get No Glory, Only Results, or Vanquish, or something like that just have a lot more utility. Actually, this might just be bad. Because, like, you're paying 1 less resources for a ton less utility. Like, a lot less utility. If your opponent hits you with a Crate Dragon or something, you're going to be so mad you're playing Direct Hit. Yeah, you know what? I'm putting this in not playable. I don't even think you would side this card. You would just side one of the other removals. Oh, there we go. Next up we have the First Order TIE Fighter. This is a 1-resource 2/1. When you control a token unit, this gains Raid 1. So there's a decent amount of like TIE Fighter spam and X-Wing spam in this set. So this is something that might see a little bit of use in like aggro decks. I'm not sure what like green-black aggro deck exists right now, but it's definitely possible for this to be good. I'm just not sure where it would fit, and it would just be like a general aggro deck. So I'm going to put it in rarely played, but I'm going to put it at the top of rarely played. Basically, if there's an aggro deck, you'll play it. Otherwise, you probably won't bother with it. Also, it's not Imperial either. It's First Order, so like, you can play it in the First Order deck, but you can't like abuse the token or the upgrade spam. Next up, we have, oh boy, Kijimi Patrollers, stupid Star Wars names. 2-resource, 1/1. When played, create a TIE Fighter token. So this just basically is a 2-cost with 2 1/1s, which we have on the ground already, and it literally sees no play, except in like gimmick decks. Let me see, are they Imperial? Hold on, that does matter. It is not. The TIE Fighter is not an Imperial unit or a First Order unit for that matter. It's just a vehicle. So I'm going to say this won't see any play then. Unless there's a specific... I guess it gives you 2 vehicles. That's kind of nice. 2 vehicles for piloting. But yeah, other than that... I mean, the one we have now sees like no play. So I'm going to put this in not played useless, but I'll put it at the top because hypothetically I could see a situation where if you're playing like a heavy pilot deck, you just want to get 2 vehicles out right away. That could be the case. Next we have Wingman Victor 2, a 2 resource 3/2 with no effect. So very good stat line. This could very well be your turn 1 play. And let's see, piloting for 1, which is the cheapest we've seen so far. When played as an upgrade, create a TIE Fighter token and gives 1/1. Okay, so this has a lot of utility actually. I really like this. Because obviously as a first turn play, it's fine. You get a 3/2 out. But a 1 cost, +1/+1, plus make a TIE Fighter token is actually pretty good. Dang, is this a 2 or a 3 of? This card seems really strong. It's just so cheap for everything it wants to do. It's an Imperial too. I'm going to put this, I think, at the bottom of 2 or 3 of. This is kind of like the Hera for Darkseid, it really feels like. Just really solid stats with a good upgrade. That's all very cheap costed. Very, very good. Next we have Victor Leader, which is a 3 cost 2/4, which is a very strong stat line. Each other friendly space unit gets 1/1. Okay, so this is very akin to Tarkin. Or, no, it's not Tarkin. What's there's a 3 resource 3/3 that gives all Imperials 1/1. It reminds me of that a lot. It's called an Anthem effect if you want to go in Magic terms, but this seems really good actually. Especially with all this space stuff. And this turns all your stupid little like TIE Fighter tokens into a lot more of a threat. Like you could first turn play Kijimi Patrollers, second turn play Victor Leader, and now you've got 2 2/2s and a 2/4 on the board on turn 2. It's definitely a combo-oriented card. I'm going to put it in commonly played. Just because it's strong and it'll definitely see some play. Just because the stat line's really good too. Like 4 health is annoying to get rid of on turn 2. Next we have Wingman Victor 3. 3 resource 4/3. So we're overstatted on the ground, which is nice. Piloting for 1. When played as an upgrade, you may give an experience token to another unit +1/+1. This card's amazing. Holy smokes. What is it with the uncommons and commons in this set being so strong? So, yeah, this is very good. That's like worth playing just for the upgrade. Man, experience token plus a +1 with like the option to play it on the ground too. This card looks very strong. I'm going to put it in commonly played again though. It's very strong, but like the fact that separates these pilots from these ones, you'll notice, from this one you notice, is that they're turn 1 plays. So you can replace the turn 1 plays you don't like in your deck with these cards that have more utility later. This is just kind of a strong general card. Next up we have Captain Phasma. She is a 5 cost 5/6, so we're overstatted. When played on attack, you may give another first order unit +2/+2 for this phase. That is quite strong. I haven't seen a lot of good first order stuff is the big problem with her. But that is a pretty good payoff. If first order is good, she will definitely see a good amount of play. She has good stats. She gives buff right away and then a recurring buff. So I'm going to put her in tier 2 towards the back because she does really... right about there. That's good. She does really depend on whether first order stuff is good or not. And I haven't seen anything that really makes her that good yet. If I start losing my voice, it's not my fault. I think we're only about halfway through. Next up, we have the Invisible Hand, which is a 6 resource 6/6, so on stat. When played / when this unit completes an attack and survives. That's interesting because they haven't had that text on before, but that's fine. You may search the top 8 cards of your deck for a droid unit, reveal it, and draw it. If it costs 2 or less, you may put it in play for free. Whoa, this is actually really good. And it's also ECLable, which is really big. So you could ECL this and get it twice? Oh, that's gross, actually. Why is this card so good? You would have to play a lot of 2-cost droid units, but I know there's one coming later where you can literally play as many as you want in your deck. This card might be kind of cracked. Huh. It's a capital ship. It's in a good color combination. Dang, what is this? Man, where does this go? Is this tier 1? I mean, it's only in its own deck that it's good. Is it a format definer? This could make a whole deck. I'm going to do something people aren't going to like. I'm going to put that up here. I really think this card could be like a full deck. There's a lot of good droid units that are low cost. And the fact that you can ECL this and get it twice is really strong. Like, think of how much pressure that is. Like, 6/6 ECL kills something easy, leaves 2 droids in its wake that have like decent stats. You know what? Yeah. I'm gonna put this format definer. It's not Krennic, but this, you could build a whole deck around this for sure. Next up we have Nien Nub. Oh god, these Star Wars names are gonna kill me. 1 cost, 1/2. This unit gets +1 for each other friendly pilot unit and upgrade. I'm sorry, +1 +0. 1/1 would be significantly better. Then we have piloting for 1. Attached unit gets +1 +0 for each other friendly pilot unit and upgrade. With a +1 +2, is this good? I mean, I think this is just going to come down to, can you play enough pilots? Can you get like a full pilot deck? If so, this could be good. Not on the ground. This is pretty much always going to be terrible on the ground just because, like, even if you're +5 attack, you're just going to die because you only have 2 health. But putting this on something big or something that's sticky could be very strong. So I'm going to say this is a rarely played because it's not something common, but it's probably higher up because it has a decent amount of potential. In its own specific deck, it could be good, though. It's definitely not a payoff enough to make like, all right, I'm going to make a pilot deck just for this card, but it's pretty solid. Next up, we have a 2-resource, 3/2 ship. That's vanilla. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's solid. Honestly, since it's a Rebel, I could see Sabine playing this. You get your Rebel Assault with it. Just a solid card. I mean, I don't think it's commonly played. I'm going to put this in rarely played. Well, I'm going to put this at the back of this. We might end up switching it around, though. I kind of want to put another tier in here. Can I? Hold on. Is there a way to add tiers easily? I don't want to fuck up my thing. Yeah, no, I don't want to mess it up. I'm not going to bother. I kind of want to put a tier in the middle here, but that's fine. Oh my god, we're like halfway done. Not even. Next up, we have the Blue Leader. So 3 resources, 3/3, so we're on curve. Ambush. Alright, that's really good for a 3/3. When played, you may pay 2 resources. If you do, move this unit to the ground arena and give 2 experience tokens to the unit. I remember this card. This card is broken, by the way. So the way that effects work in this game, you can order this however you want. So you can bring Blue Leader in, ambush, kill a space unit, have Blue Leader live, give it the experience tokens, and move it to the ground afterwards. So like you could kill something in space and then immediately move it to the ground, which is very strong. Also the utility of 3 resource 3/3 ambush or 5 resource 5/5 ambush is also very good. It can also ambush to the ground. This card can ambush to the ground as long as you're giving the experience. Just a really good card, honestly. Once again, the uncommons in this set are really kind of taking the cake. I'm putting this in 2 or 3 of, honestly. I think this card is going to be in every single deck that it can be in for the colors. It's just such insane amount of utility all put into one card. Next we have Lay Organa. 3 resource, 3/4, so we're above stat. Restore 1. When played, you may attack with a pilot unit or a unit with a pilot on it. It gets +1 and restore 1 for the attack. This card is quite good. It's a rebel, which is nice. It's 3 resources for 3/4 with restore, which is just good by itself, and it has more incidental healing. Plus, we have shown like over time that units that allow you to shortcut actions have always been really strong. So things like Hotshot Blaster is really good. The Rebel card that's a 3/3 that lets you attack and immediately +2/+2. This is kind of a mini version of that with Restore tacked on. I definitely think this card's going to see play. We're going to put this in commonly played. Where do I want to put it? Right around here, I think. I think this deserves to go a little quicker too. I'm knocking her down a little bit. Next up we have Snap Wexley. Sorry, I couldn't help it. Hopefully you heard me snap, and otherwise it sounds stupid. He is a 3 resource 2/5, which is good stats for a 3 cost. When played as a unit / on attack, the next resistance card you play this phase costs 1 less. Nice little bonus. It's nice that it's also on attack. That actually helps a lot. If it was just when played, you wouldn't really be able to take advantage of it on turn 2. If there is a good resistance card you want to play that costs 5, this card gets a lot better, because that could mean this is your turn 2 play, and then you could immediately play the card on the next turn. He is piloting for 2 and played as an upgrade. Search the top 5 cards of your deck for a resistance card. Reveal it and draw it +2/+2. That is actually also very strong. If you can get enough resistance, I know there isn't a lot of resistance cards, unfortunately. It's going to really hold this card back. If we get more resistance cards in the next couple cards, this card is very strong. The fact that it's a +2/+2 and then draw a card essentially, or is a like 2/5 with a resource cheat. 2 very powerful effects put together. I think he should go in commonly played, but towards the end probably. Probably back here. Yeah, a lot of the cards back here are like really dependent on whether their decks are good or not. Next we have Red Leader, who is a 4 resource 3/4, so slightly understated. This unit costs 1 less to play for each friendly pilot unit and upgrade. Well, now we know why he's slightly understated. When a pilot upgrade attaches to this unit, create an X-Wing token. This one's really hard to judge. It could really... Alright, in a vacuum, this card needs you to have a board to be played, and that's usually not good enough. If you have, let's see, if you have 1 pilot in play, it comes down on turn 2, which isn't bad. Yeah, like the only time you really feel good about playing this is on turn 2. If you play a pilot turn 1 into this on turn 2, it's pretty solid. Then maybe next turn you upgrade it and get an X-Wing. X-Wings are 2 1s, by the way, so it's not like they're 2 2s like Clone Troopers or anything. I don't think this card's very good. I feel like people are going to disagree with me on that, because they'll be like, oh my god, if you have 4 pilots, then, like, you could get it down to 0 and it's crazy. But, like, I feel like that's such a win more card. I really don't think this is going to see much play. I'm going to put this at the top of not played. I feel like people are going to disagree with me on this one a lot. But I just think this is too much win more. It's possible that the payoff of playing it on turn 2, but then you need another pilot to, like, even get the payoff on it. This is probably good in specifically the Poe deck, and that's about it. It's good in the Poe deck. Should I move it up to rarely played? Iden, is it better than these? You know, we'll put it at the end of rarely played. I changed my mind. I think the Poe leader alone makes this better. But we'll see. That one could pretty easily get moved down. Next up we have Chewbacca, a 5 resource 5/6. This unit can't be defeated or returned to hand by enemy card abilities. I just want to say that effect is really strong. This is going to be extremely annoying to get rid of with 6 health. That means it doesn't die to Vader. Dies to Maul, but like a lot of the ambush stuff aren't going to be able to get rid of this. It also has piloting for 3 with a +3/+3. Attached units gain this unit can't be defeated or returned to hand by enemy card abilities. That is also very strong. You could stick this on a bunch of really annoying things. Like imagine you play Home 1 and then pilot it with Chewbacca. Plus like 3 resources for a +3/+3 is just good too. I feel like this card will see play. It's probably commonly played though. I don't think it's like something you'll put a ton of in your deck, but this is something I feel like almost all light side decks will play probably as a 1 or a 2 of. Next up we have Radius, a 7 resource 8/6, has Sentinel. When defeated, deal damage equal to this unit's power to an enemy unit. This card is really, really, really good. 8 attack on a 7 cost with Sentinel is so good because like it's going to take something decent size to get rid of it, and then it's going to kill something else, and it's extremely threatening because it's doing 8 to base every turn. Literally, if this new card didn't exist, No Glory only results is the card balancing this, because taking it and dealing 8 to one of your opponent's units is like awful tempo wise. But yeah, oh my god, if you don't have that, this card is so good. Oh, you know what? I did miss the fact that you need another resistance card in play. Okay, so it doesn't have Sentinel automatically. That makes it significantly worse, but still quite strong. Alright. Well, that's disappointing. I was going to put that in Format Definer. However, because of the need to have other resistance cards in play, it's going to go down here, right below its hard counter. And I definitely thought this card was a legendary. What are the legendaries? I feel like none of the legendaries are good in this set again. Next we have General Draven, the League of Legends character. He is a 5 resource 2/5. When played on attack, create an X-Wing token. So once again, the X-Wings, I just want to double check and make sure I'm not crazy, but I believe they're 2 1s. Oh, there are 2 2s. Why did I think there were 2 1s? Okay, that makes that a lot better. I thought they were 2 1s for some reason. Let's get back to League of Draven. There we go. So when he comes down, you're getting 4/7 worth of stats for 5, which feels like on par, basically. Is this good? This is hard. This is a hard one to evaluate. Like, getting rid of 5 on turn 5 isn't that hard. That's the problem. Like, are you okay with this eating an attack, dealing 2 damage, and just having an X-Wing? I feel like you're not. But if they don't get rid of it, like, it gets out of hand really quick. This is a tricky one. I think he's going to go in rarely played, but towards the top. I feel like this is a card that people will try, and I think it might just be a little too slow. This effect needed to be on a like less costed card, I think, for it to really be good. Because like you don't want to burn your ECL on this. Like 2 X-Wings is nice, but like you can get so much more out of an ECL. And like the stats are too low. Like if this needed to be like a 4 or 5, then I think it would be good. Because like think about it this way, like you have, where is it? Like a similar effect on the invisible hand. It costs 1 more, but you get 6/6 worth of stats. And you're putting in probably better than a 2/2. So like, yeah, I just don't feel like it's good enough, quite good enough. Next up we have Resupply Carrier, a 6 resource 4/5, so way understated. You may put the top card of your deck into play as a resource. Ooh, so it's a ramp, but later. That's interesting. This could be good for... So I don't think Darkside needs this because they have Super Laser. The times when I can see this being good is if you are playing this base that increases your maximum deck size. You can add in a couple extra ramp cards, which is kind of nice. It gets you from 6 to 8, which is like a really relevant turn skip. That being said, like, it's not as early as the other ones. And you can't get to 7 with it, which is important too. I think Lightside might play this and Darkside doesn't. I think Darkside has enough ramp. But I'm going to put it in rarely played because I do think we'll see some edge case play. I'm going to put it down about here, I think. Tandem Assault. 1 resource attack with a space unit. If you do attack with a ground unit, that ground unit gets +2/+0 for this attack. So the problem with this is you don't get to attack with a ground unit if you don't have a space unit. So it's kind of unnecessary. Like, it's cute in terms of, like, if you're trying to rush down base and you're split, but, like, it's worse than Rebel Assault. Because Rebel Assault, you can attack with 2 rebels anywhere. It can be 2 ground, 2 space, whatever you want. And it has the exact same amount of stats given to you, too. Where it's, you know, it's instead of +1/+1, it's +2. But, like, it's the same amount of stats if you're going to base. So I don't think Tandem Assault gets played at all. Next up, we have Eject. 2 resource, detach a pilot upgrade, move it to the ground arena as a unit, and exhaust it, draw a card. The fact that this draws a card really matters. I don't think it would be good if it didn't. Let's see. Most of the pilots we've seen, none of them have had more, like, a cheaper cost and then their piloting costs a bunch. I guess there was a couple that were like 5s earlier, right? So like Interceptor Ace. Or I'm sorry, the piloting was cheap and then their whatchamacallit cost more. That being said, this may be a format depender because I know we said we're not doing leaders, but this card we have to talk about Poe in order to really talk about it. So the way this works is you can attach it for 1 and then you can flip it right away and it is a 4/6. So hypothetically, you can turn 1, play a space unit, turn 2, you action for 1, put Poe on it, and then you eject. Which gives you a 4/6 on turn 2. Oops, sorry, I didn't go far enough. So because of that play and the fact that Poe is going to be good, this card is going in Format Definer. This card has a chance with the Poe deck to basically be like a tier 1 deck with that combo by itself. Let me check one thing too. Do you have to detach a pilot upgrade, move it to the ground unit, and exhaust it, draw a card? So I believe because these are separate instances, you can just play this for 2 to draw a card as well if you need to. But there's just a lot of upside to this. If the ship's about to die, bam, you can take it off. But yeah, the Poe interaction by itself really makes that like a real card. Turbo Laser Salvo. Hey, we finally found a legendary. Choose an arena. Friendly space unit deals damage equal to its power to each enemy unit in that arena for 7. This is bad, right? Like, I'm pretty sure this is just bad. So it's not a full wipe, but it is one-sided. You have to have a space unit and it costs 7. This is so tricky. Is this good? It's just so late, like, unconditional. So it reminds me a lot of Overwhelming Barrage. A lot of time when you play Overwhelming Barrage, it's a board wipe. And you need a big space unit for this to be good. Like, what? It needs probably minimum 3, preferably like 5 or 6 attack. So what, you're playing that on 6 and then this on 7? I think this is bad, guys. Like, there could be instances where it's good, maybe in like a super hard control deck. But like, I'm pretty sure like, sorry, I'm saying like a lot. I've been trying to get better on that. I'm pretty sure this just isn't good. I'm going to put it in rarely played though, because obviously it's a board wipe, so like, it has potential. But I just don't think it's very good. I think it's too situational. I think you need too big of a ship. At that point, you're like winning more. The only time it's good is if you have a big ship in play and your opponent has like a bunch of little ground units. And usually that's not turn 7. Alright, so we're into the red cards. We have a First Order Stormtrooper. 1 resource, 2/1. On attack, when defeated, deal 1 indirect damage to players. So if you don't know what indirect damage is, basically you tell your opponent, alright, I'm doing 1 indirect. They choose where to put it. They can put it on base, put it on units. it's something that doesn't matter that much at the beginning. Towards the end, the chip damage can matter. There are leaders that do well with it as well. So that could be well. On attack / when defeated. I mean, this is just an aggro card, right? It'll see play in the indirect decks. It'll see play in the, like, some aggro decks. Nothing too flashy. If it can get multiple attacks off with it, it gets really, really worth it. But I'm just going to put this towards the back end of commonly. We'll put it right around Chewbacca. I'm sure we'll see it. Nothing crazy. Hi, Pastrami. How's it going? I am ranking the cards from the new set. Next up, we have Allegiant General Pride. Sorry, drinking some water, trying not to lose my voice. Alright, so we got 2 resources, 2/3, so on stats. When indirect damage is dealt to a unit, you may defeat a non-unique upgrade on it. On attack, if you have the initiative, deal 2 indirect damage to a player. So obviously this is really good going first. It reminds me a lot of the Sabine unit in that phase, where it's like a 2-mana 2/3 that does extra damage. If you're going second, it's really bad though, because like, then you're not attacking, it's probably just going to die right away, and then it's just like a 2/3 vanilla. I'm sure the indirect damage decks will still play it, but the fact of like how insanely different this is going first or second is like a lot. Also, that first effect like might as well not be there, because your opponent's just not going to select their units with upgrades on it. So like, that basically doesn't matter. That's almost never going to actually happen. So yeah, I mean, this card's fine. It's probably rarely played, but towards the top, because like it'll get rarely played in its specific deck, but other than that, it's not particularly amazing. Next, we have General Hux. 2 resources, 1/4. Each other friendly first order unit gets raid 1. That's pretty good. Action: if you played a first order card this phase, draw a card. Holy shit, this card's insane. This is just recurring draw. This is a Pershing that gives your units raid as well. Yeah, so this card's cracked. Holy smokes. Once again, the uncommons in this set, I tell ya. So Hux is going to be a format definer. That literally this card by itself makes First Order a viable deck. This deck creates a whole deck. I don't know if it's good enough. Unfortunately, First Order is not a keyword we had before, so like pretty sure all the First Order cards are from this set. I'm honestly not even sure if like the Kylo from like last set and stuff are First Order, but yeah, no, if there's enough critical amount of First Order cards, this is a payoff card that's good enough. Next, we have the Special Forces TIE Fighter. 2 resource, 2/3, so on stats. When played, your opponent controls more space units than you. Ready this unit. So, I have a complaint about these effects, because the Ahsoka from last set has the same problem of if you don't have any space units and your opponent has 1 space unit, this doesn't stand up. Because when it's played, you both have 1 then. So like your opponent has to have 2 space units and you have 0 space units. And by that time, a 2 resource 2/3 is not going to do anything. Just like how Ahsoka was a 3 resource 3/4, and I played her deck for like 3 weeks. I played her standing up 1 time. Like, it just doesn't happen. So this unfortunately is going to go in a not played useless. At least it's not a legendary this time. Next up we have Dengar. He's a 4 resources 5/4, so above stats. Piloting for 2. Attached unit gains on attack, deal 2 indirect damage to a player. This unit is an underworld, deal 3 indirect, and it's a +1/+2. This card's broken, by the way. This card is a card that I saw and was immediately worried about it. Because so it's not only is it a +1, if it's an underworld, it's basically +4 because you're doing 3 indirect. So like aggro decks are going to eat this card for lunch. This card is so good in those decks. He's also an overstated when you play him regularly. He's another card where you can abuse the eject with. because you're only playing him for 2, you can eject him. He has to be ejected on turn 4, though, so he's not quite as good as Poe. But yeah, this card is really, really good. I'm tempted to put this in format because he's like the strongest card in the indirect deck. But I'm going to say no. I'm going to say it's right about here on the 2 or 3 ofs. Just because he's really only for aggro. He's not good in control. Possibly something like Bosk Red would want him too. But Cad Bane loves this card so much. This card was like made for Cad Bane. Next we have IG 2000. 4 resource, 3/4, so slightly under stat. Overwhelm, when played, deal 1 damage to each of up to 3 units. Huh. I mean, this card's insane in Django. Holy smokes, this card is good in Django. And it's a triple Dark Raid target too. Yeah, that alone, because Django's still going to be good this set, that alone probably makes us a tier 1 card. But outside of Django, it's kind of mid. It's a little understated. Overwhelm doesn't do that much. Yeah, Django alone though, because Django's a good deck. I'm going to put this in commonly played, but I'm going to put it at the very top. Because it's basically like, are you playing Django? This is a 3 of. This is... But it's probably not getting played in very many other decks. Next we have IG-88, 5 resource, 4/5. When an enemy unit is damaged, this gets +3/+0. That's kind of crazy. I'm actually not 100% sure how that works with like things that do damage to multiple targets. I'm gonna have to look up that ruling because that's really dependent. Has piloting for 2. Attached unit gains while an enemy unit is damaged. This unit gets +3/+0, and it's a 0/3. That's quite strong, actually. This is really good in aggressive decks. Because essentially, like if you're playing against, especially in like Cad Bane and stuff like that, like the ping decks, this just says equip for 2 +3/+3, which is pretty strong. I know, I'm not sure if stuff like for example, for IG 2000, if you hit 3 different units with, I'm assuming it's not +9. Because that would be broken. I'm assuming that's not the case. I'm going to put this in commonly played. Kind of backed by like the theme cards. If that can get like a +9 off that effect, this is instantly going to go up to a format definer. That's just too much attack to give something. I will say this card is like tailor-made for Maul deck. The one that when you attack gives overwhelm. That deck is going to absolutely love this card. Next up we have Devastator, which is an 8 resource 9/6. You assign all indirect damage you deal to your opponents. When played, deal 4 indirect damage to each opponent. This card is insane. This is probably the best legendary we've seen so far. So, not even given the fact that assigning indirect damage, like this could just say when played, deal 4 damage wherever you want it, and it would be a really good card. With the indirect thing and a card we're going to see later, this card is insane. But no, this card is good. This card is format defining. This could be at the top end of a very good new, like, red, black, green, where instead of playing blue for all your control, you play this as your top end, and you just blow everything off the board. Like this could just be 4 damage to base as well. So like, it's just a lot of stuff. It is a little weaker on the stats side, but I think the fact that when it comes down, it immediately impacts the board makes up for that. Next we have No Disintegrations. Deal damage to a non-leader unit equal to 1 less than its remaining HP. I mean, that's just bad, right? I don't see any time you would ever actually play this, honestly. Because, yeah, it's just, you could just play something to kill it for like 1 more resource, so it's a starter deck card. Won't see any play. Next we have BB-8. It is a 1 resource, 1/4, which is okay stats. Piloting for 1. When played as an upgrade, you may play 2. If you do, ready a resistance unit. And it gives +1, +2. So you're basically never going to want to pay this unit on the ground. So you pay 1 for a +1, +2, which isn't good. Or you can pay 3 to ready a resistance unit. Is that good? I mean, it's good if, like, it's Poe from the last set. Hold on. Dameron, quick to improvise. I'm just curious. Is he resistance? He is resistance. Okay. So, like, if you put a Poe out and they don't kill it, you get to attack twice with it. That's really good. But how often are you actually getting that? I feel like this is kind of a win more card. I guess you can put it on leaders and attack twice with leaders. That's kind of cool. Man, this one's really hard to evaluate because it's incredibly dependent on, like, what... Man, untapping for 3 is very strong, but the other effects are all very not good. This one's hard. I'm going to put him in rarely played at the top. That could be really wrong. This is the card I'm having the most trouble, like, figuring out where it should go, to be honest. That could be incredibly wrong. This could literally be anywhere in these top 4, really dependent. But I think it might be a win more card. Next we have Massey Tactical Officer. 1 resource, 0/4. Action, tap, attack with a fighter unit, gets +2 attack. I don't think that's good enough, honestly. Things with 0 attack are really hard to play in this game just because they die so easily and they don't do any damage back. So it's like, they just don't do enough, unfortunately, really to be worth playing ever. This is going in not played. Next we have Black 1. 2 resource, 2/3, so stats are good. When this is upgraded, it gets +1, +0. On attack, if you control Poe Dameron as a unit upgrade or leader, you may deal 1 damage to a unit. Oh, this card's really good, by the way. This goes in the Poe deck. That's probably the scariest deck coming out of this set. And so let's see. So the question becomes, if you're not Poe, do you ever play this card? I think the answer is no. Because even just as a 3/3, I don't think it's necessarily good enough. I mean, it's fine. It's kind of like if you need the keywords. Being resistance and stuff is good. I'm going to put this in commonly played at the top. The commonly played cards you'll notice are usually like cards that go in a specific deck, but won't get played that much outside of it. Next we have Frisk, who is a lizard man. 2 resources, 3/2, so he's got that good stat line for a turn 1 unit. Piloting for 2, you may defeat an upgrade that costs 2 or less. +2, +2. So it's kind of cool. He's a pilot that kills other pilots. Which, I mean, but he only really kills the pilots that, like, the early ones. But he is, like, the cost to put him in his deck is, like, nothing, to be fair to. This might be a tech card. I'm going to put this in tech cards. You might want to just put it in your deck. It might be good enough for that. It's kind of hard to decide. It's going to depend what your early lineup is too. Like if you just don't have a lot of early drops and you want to play something with a lot of utility, he's a pretty solid choice. But his piloting thing is so specific. Next we have the Red Squadron Y-Wing. For 2 resources you get a 1/3. On attack, deal 3 indirect damage to the defending player. Is that good? This reminds me a lot of the light side one we have right now. It's got the same stats and it deals 2 indirect damage essentially. That one doesn't see much play. It is a rebel, which is nice though. Oh man, and a lot of the indirect damage stuff is like better in dark side too. I don't think this is playable. Well, maybe in Sabine and aggro because you just don't care where they're putting the 3 damage. Actually, no, I take it back. This is really good in Sabine specifically. This is going to go in rarely played. Because in like specifically Sabine or heroic aggro, it's good, but in anything else, it's not really good enough to be played. Biggs Darklighter. 3 resources, 3/4, so good stats. Piloting for 1. If this card is attached to a fighter, it gains Overwhelm. If it's transport, it gets 1 health. If it's a speeder, it gains Grit. It's a +2/+1. So I don't think this is good. Because, like, I don't think you care about... All those stats are, like, not good enough. And giving Grit to a speeder is, like, the best one. But there just aren't very many good speeders. So I think it's just bad, unfortunately. None of these are really strong enough. Overwhelm's cute, but fighters aren't that big. So, like... Yeah, I don't think he's seeing any play. He can go towards the top of not played. Because hypothetically, there could be a spot for him. I just don't think he's very good. Next, we have Red 5 standing by. 3 resources, 3/4. So stats are good. On attack, you may deal 2 damage to a damaged unit. Huh. Indirect payoff. It's only 2 damage. It's not bad, though. So this is probably played only in Luke. Luke gets a payoff for playing fighters. Where is he real quick? Yeah, if you attack with a fighter, deal 1 damage to a unit. So it's backwards too. That's so rough. Yeah, so like as fighter, so if he's attached to it, it's nice because you're dealing 5 damage, which is really good. But I don't think this flips till 6. Yeah, that's so rough. I don't think this is good, unfortunately. It's just not going to do anything in a lot of situations. I won't say it's never played. I think it's rarely played, but like towards the back. It'll probably get played in Luke, and that's about it. Next up, we have the Tactical Heavy Bomber. 5 resources, 3/5 on attack. Deal indirect damage equal to this unit's power to the defending player. If a base is damaged this way, draw a card. Ooh, this card's pretty good. And if it's piloted, it gets even better. The draw is what makes it. If it didn't have the draw, I don't think it would be good enough. But the fact that you can be like, put this out there, pilot it with like a +2, and all of a sudden you're doing 5 indirect, plus the attacks damage, plus drawing a card if they put any of that on their base. It's just really strong. Yeah, this is a really good card. It is a little on the side of win more, so it's going in commonly played. It's not going in, like, most decks. But it is quite strong, and it's definitely going to see play. Next we have Profundity. 9 cost, 8/9. With Overwhelm, so big stats with Overwhelm is always nice. When played, when defeated, choose a player, they discard a card from their hand. Then if they have more cards in their hand than you do, they discard another card from their hand. That's a lot of discards. Like, because it's played and defeated. Huh. Man, I don't know how to feel about this. Is this good? 9 is so late. Like, I feel like you usually have more than enough cards. I guess it gives a top end to, like, the heavy discard decks. So, like, if you're planning on playing, like, pillages and stuff, this is probably good. But it's probably not good unless you're playing pillages and stuff. It has a lot of health. That's really nice. But it's like a discard 2, possibly 3 on average. Man, this is a really hard one to evaluate. I'm going to say right now, this card's going to be incredibly meta dependent. On whether it's like too late, because it doesn't impact the board. I think this is rarely played. The problem is it's a 9-drop that doesn't immediately impact the board. Like, sure, discarding 2 is nice, but you could play Pillage for 4 and do that. I feel like the discard isn't going to matter a lot of the times that late. It's definitely solid, though. It feels a lot like the 9-drop 8-ape ship in Darkside that says your opponent's first, like, effect card is negated. Like, it's that kind of, like, floodgatey kind of thing. Well, Maybe it goes up to common. You know what? It's going to go on the end of commonly played, I think. Because I do think people will play it. I'm not convinced it's actually good yet, though. Next we have Trench Run. 1 cost. Attack with a fighter unit. For this attack, it gets +4/+0 and gains on attack. Discard 2 cards from the defending player's deck. Deal unpreventable damage equal to the difference in the discarded card's cost to the unit. To this unit. So you blow yourself up, essentially. Discard 2 cards from the defending player's deck. Wait, isn't this bad? Because if you blow up, you don't get the attack anymore. Yeah, unfortunately, this is bad. People were talking about this card. What were people talking about this card? This card isn't good. You're just going to blow up your own guy. It has to be a fighter? No, this is bad. Like, people are going to see the +4 and be like, oh my god, +4. But then you're just going to play this and -2 yourself. Like, what the hell? That's so risky. Next we have Captain Tarkin. 3 resource, 2/5. Hilariously, he's Republic because this is pre-Empire. Each friendly vehicle unit gets +1/+0 and gains Overwhelm. Ooh, that's nasty. Holy smokes. That's really good. And it's another uncommon. Like, 2/5 is really annoying to get rid of on turn 2. And it gives +1 in Overwhelm to your whole space. This card's good. This card's very good. Jeez, what do I rate this? I think that might be a tier 1. That's not format defining, right? No, it's just +1 stats and Overwhelm. But that's definitely a tier 1 card. I feel like if you're playing a decent amount of vehicles, you're always playing that card in your red decks. Like, it's just that good. That's crazy. I haven't even seen that card yet. Next we have Droid Missile Platform. 3 resource, 4/2, so overstatted on attack. When defeated, deal 3 indirect damage to a player. This is just a really strong aggro card. Like, I feel like most... This is probably good in Django, too. See, here's where, like, indirect damage is really nice. Because when you're hitting their base for 4, like, you don't care where that damage is going. No, this is good. This is a good card. This is just a good card. This is going to go uncommonly played. Probably pretty high up, too. It's just a very solid card. Hunting Aggressor. 4 resource, 3/6. Indirect damage deal to opponent is increased by 1. So this is like the full payoff for indirect, I'm guessing. It's a 4 resource 3/6, which is a really obnoxious stat line. Holy smokes. Yeah, this thing's amazing. I mean, you have to have ways to do indirect damage, which they do have that on Eliters, right? I think Boba Fett's the one, right? When you do a non-combat damage, deal 1 indirect damage, so it makes you do 2 indirect damage. What is the light-sided one? Do we not have a light side one for indirect? No, we don't. Saboteur, discard a card. Okay, so we don't have a light side indirect damage. Yeah, we don't. Okay. What do I think about this? I mean, it's obviously broken in Boba Fett specifically. One thing to note is it only increases each instance by 1, so it's not like you can, like... I guess you could stack some of these. The stats are just so good. Okay, so this card is good. I don't think it's 2 or 3 of in most decks. I think this is more of just a really strong... It's going to go down here because it's got to be in the right deck, but you're definitely going to see it. I don't think it's a format definer. Ooh, Man, that's so hard. This is a hard one. I could be way low on this one, honestly. I could pretty easily be way low on it. Fight fire with fire. 1 resource, choose a friendly unit and an enemy unit in the same arena. If you do, deal 3 damage to both of them. So this is going to be in rarely played, but it's going to be at the top because certain grit decks might really like this card. But other than that, it's just not as good as other things that do similar stuff. Next up, we have Stay on Target. 2 resources, attack with a vehicle unit. For this attack, it gets +2/+0 and gains when this unit deals damage to a base draw card. That's very good. That's just a really good card in aggressive decks. It's basically the heroic... it's heroic something. It's a 1-cost +2 draw card and then the unit dies, but it doesn't kill your unit for 1 more resource. That's a strong card. This is going to go uncommonly played up here with like the just strong cards. Next we have Gregorian Turn. 3 cost. Ready a fighter or transport unit with 6 or less power. I don't know, I'm always really on the fence with these like ready cards. I feel like I haven't seen one yet that I really like. Just gonna go down and rarely played. Planetary Bombardment. I have words about this card. I think this card's absurd. The reason for that is it's such an incredible top end for aggro decks. Here's what it does. 6 resources, deal 8 indirect damage to a player. If you control a capital ship, deal 12 indirect damage to a player. So, if your opponent's board is empty, and you have a Ruthless Raider out, you pop this first action, 12 damage to base. Just half your base just explodes. Like, this card is, I think, possibly problematic. We'll see. Maybe I'm crazy. I don't know if this card's okay. Dealing 8 damage to your opponent for 6. Just flat out too. Like, if neither of you have an open board, or if you both have an open board, you can just drop this and finish someone off really easy. I think this card is format defining. I think this card puts certain aggro decks completely over the top. Like, who needs ECL Wrecker? You just play this and blow their face off. Like, plus, funnily enough, you can use it with the Star Destroyer. Oh my god, if you have that out, the game's just instantly over. Devastator? Because you can just assign all the damage to their base. Alright, so now we're into yellow cards rather. I believe these are the last ones other than the light and the dark side. So we have 2 cost Rampart, 3/3, so we're overstatted. This unit doesn't ready during the regroup phase unless its power is 4 or more. Is this good? I mean, it holds pilots really well, obviously. Like, that's kind of the idea. This card's hard. This card's really hard to evaluate. There are a lot of good pilots. I'm going to say that this card's good. Well, it needs another card. Okay, so let's hypothetically, you're basically losing, what, 1 in stats? 1 attack or 1... I don't think it's a big enough payoff. This needed to be like a... Maybe this was like a 3/4. It would be good. But I think at this stat line, like, why aren't you just playing a different card? I'm going to say this isn't good. But I think at the top of not good. Zagarian Starhopper. 2 cost, 2/3. When defeated, deal 2 indirect damage to a player. I mean, that's solid. Do I like this card? This is such a weird card. I don't think that's good. Well, I mean, if you're playing, like, specifically the indirect damage deck, it's probably fine. And you probably play it. But I don't think it's good other than that, so it's going to go in rarely played. And even then, I don't think it's particularly strong. Hound's Tooth. 3 resource, 4/3. While attacking an exhaust unit that didn't enter player's phase, this unit deals combat damage before the defender. This card's quite good. It's overstatted. It has the possibility of dealing damage without taking any damage back. It's Underworld, which helps a lot in a lot of decks. I think this card, honestly, low ender 2 of 3 of in most decks. I think if you're playing yellow-black, you're playing this card every single time. And you are either playing, you're playing at least 2. In certain decks, it's 3 guaranteed. It basically has soft Sentinel. Because if your opponent doesn't attack it, you just get to blow up their card and they don't take any damage back. Mist Hunter, 3 cost, 3/4. On attack, if you played a bounty hunter or a pilot card this phase, you may draw a card. That's pretty good, right? That's not insane. I feel like there aren't a ton of bounty hunters, but there's a lot of pilots. So this could just sit here and draw cards. This is solid. This is a solid card. It does require other cards to function, but it has good enough stats that I don't think it necessarily matters a lot. It's going to go right in the middle of commonly played, I think. Whew, alright. I'm losing my voice, but we're getting to the home stretch. We have Bosk, a 4 resource 4/4 on attack. Exhaust the defender and deal 1 damage to it if it's a unit. That's bad. Piloting for 2. Attached unit gains on attack, exhaust the unit, and deal 1 damage to it if it's a unit. With 2/2. This card's bad. Oh, it's a starter deck card. That makes a lot more sense. Bosk stands for bad. You shouldn't be up there. You should be back down here. Moff Gideon. 4 resources, 5/4. When this unit deals combat damage to an opponent's base, each unit that opponent plays this phase costs 1 more. That's quite good. And it's an Imperial official? Excuse me. Ooh. I'm guzzling water over here. This card is really strong. I think just because of the stat line, honestly. Like, the stat line's strong, and your opponent has to deal with it if they don't want to get hit every turn. I'm going to say this is a commonly played card, and I'm going to put it towards the top. It really feels like in line with these cards. I don't know if it's 2 or 3 of in most deck. It's close. It's close. I'm trying to think what other 4-drops it's sharing the light with. That's really disruptive. I'm going to put this up here. I think, honestly, if you're playing these colors, you're probably playing this card. Next, we have Boba Fett. I'm sure it's broken because it's Boba Fett. 5 resource, 5/4 shielded. Just fine. Piloting for 2. When played as an upgrade, you may deal 1 damage to a unit. If attached unit is a transport, you may deal 2 damage instead. So it's a +2/+3. So it's a 2 resource, deal 1 with a good solid buff, or deal 2? This is such a weird card. What the hell? Is this good? Huh. Let me read it again. I can't tell. So 5/4 shielded, which on its own would never be playable, or a 2 resource +2/+3 deal 1 damage. There's not that many transports, so it's usually going to be 1 damage. I kind of wish this was indirect damage, honestly. Because then you could buff it and like get other effects with it. The Django leader. I think this is bad, guys. It's nice stats. It is a good eject target. That's the true. I don't think this is very good. I really don't. I'm a little disappointed with these yellow cards so far. I'm going to say this goes in rarely played. It's probably top side of rarely played, though. Next we have Invincible. 6 resource, 6/6. If you control a unique separatist card, this card costs 1 less to play. In that case, it's really playing this on 5 is good stats. When you deploy your leader, you may return a non-leader unit that costs 3 or less to its owner's hand. Huh. So this is obviously really strong with... There's a leader in this set you can deploy multiple times with. This Admiral Trench. It costs 3 every time, but when you flip it, you immediately get to bounce a 3 or less for 3 essentially. So it's like a mini waylay. Where are we at? We haven't done these yet. There we go. And it's got good stats. You're probably all... I think the stats alone, honestly, are good enough. It's got post stats in space. Like, that's just good. It's a capital ship. It's separatist, which is relevant. This is a good card. This card will be played. I think it's top of commonly played, though. I don't think it's good as, like, Moff Gideon. Is it as good as Moff Gideon? Huh. So, let's let's rate it without the deploy effect. Is this good enough as a 5 cost 6/6 with no effect? In space. Probably not. So you need the deploy leader effect. So yeah, this is definitely not 2 or 3 of in every deck. I'm going to put it in commonly played. I'm going to put it down here a little bit though. I think it's more in line with like this stuff. Definitely a solid card, but not like... nothing insane. I have you now. 1 cost. Attack with a vehicle unit. Prevent all damage to be dealt to it during this attack. Huh. Is this good enough to play? It's kind of like shoot first, right? But shoot first goes on anything, right? Hold on. Isn't this just better? I mean, I guess there's a situation where you don't kill the unit, but like, when would you ever use that? Yeah, no, this is bad. This is worse shoot first. Man, I wanted to be good. That's like literally one of my best favorite lines from all of Star Wars. I'm sad this isn't good. Next we have Dagger Squadron Pilot. It's a 1 resource 2/1, or piloting for 1 would just 2/1 as well. I don't think that's good. That's bad, yeah. Neither of those stats are worthwhile. Like, obviously being for 1 is nice, but it's like not worth the card in your hand, right? Anakin Skywalker, I'll try spinning. 2 resource, 2/3. So this is another one of those pilots where you can just replace your turn 1 cost with them. Piloting for 2. When attached unit completes an attack and survives, you may return this upgrade to its owner's hand. It's a +2/+3. That's pretty good, actually. I like this a lot. This is very strong. Ooh, and he's Force? Okay, this is good. This is very good. It's a 2 cost Force user, which like by itself is very strong. People play Grogu simply because he's a 2 cost Force user. I think this is commonly 2 or 3 of in most decks. I think if you're playing a light side deck that with Force Throw in it, which of course you are, this is an auto include. Plus, like, this completes an attack and survives. It's going to happen, I think, a decent amount. And +2/+3 is good for 2 resources. Blade Squadron B-Wing, 3 resource, 3/3. When played, if another player controls 3 or more exhausted units, give a shield token to a unit. That's not good enough. A lot of the stuff we've seen is 3 resource, 3/4s, which, yeah, it's just not good enough. Shuttle Tidarium, 3 resource, 2/4. On attack, discard a card from your deck. If it's an odd cost, you may give an experience token to another unit. This is a really cool unit. I really want them to do more like odd cost payoff type stuff. Unfortunately, there isn't enough in this set really to make it worthwhile. So as of now, it's rarely played. If we get to a point where it gets more support, it will go up. It's a good card. It's just there's not enough support for it. Ahsoka Tano, 4 cost 3/5. I'm still mad this isn't a Spectre. When played, an opponent discards a card from their hand. If it's a unit, you may exhaust a unit. This card is very good. Like, legitimately very, very good. It's got good stats. 3/5 for 4 is very sticky. It's a Force user. It discards on play, so it's essentially a +1 on play. And it comes with a lot of times you're going to exhaust a unit. People play a lot more units than they do non-unit cards. So, yeah, no, this card is very strong. This card's going to 2 or 3 of in most decks. I think if you're in this color, you're almost always playing this card. It's very, very good. At least it's a rare this time. Black Squadron Scout Wing, 5 resource, 4/6. When you play an upgrade on this unit, may attack with it. It gets +1/+0 for the attack. This is good. Is it good enough? Obviously, it's going to depend on how many pilots you play. It's got decent stats for the effect. This is very hard to like determine whether that's good or not. So it gets an additional +1 when you play an upgrade on it. So let's see, what are you doing? On turn 5, you're playing Scout Wing. Honestly, this might be good because, or no, if it's tapped, then you can't attack with the unit if you equip your leader to it. I'm going to put this in... I'm going to put this in rarely played at the top. This is a lot like Shuttle Tidarium, is a card where, like, if the support's there, it could be good, but there's a decent chance it doesn't have enough support. Han Solo, 5 cost, 4/5 ambush, very solid. Piloting for 2. When played as an upgrade, you may attack with attached unit. If it's Millennium Falcon, it deals combat damage before the defender. It's a +2/+3. This is pretty good. I like this. There's a decent amount of good Millennium Falcons. I mean, I guess mostly it's the legendary one that you're going to play this on, right? So you go turn 2, play the Falcon. Turn 3, its attack is a 5, and it deals damage before the defender. And it plays on attack. Is this good if the only thing you're ever attaching it to is specifically the Falcon? Like that one Falcon? Falcon's pretty good. Plus, like, if you have 5 resources, you can do them both, and the Falcon comes in untapped, so it can attack right away. I'm going to put this in commonly played, like, in the middle. Just because it only really works well with the legendary Falcon. Is there a hold on, is there a Falcon in this set? There's no Falcon in this set? It's kind of crazy. Yeah, that's about right. It'll definitely see some play, but it's only played in like a specific circumstance. So. Home 1. 9 cost, 7/8. If your opponent controls 3 or more space units, this card costs 3 less to play, so it costs 6. Ambush. I think this is a side card, because you're never going to want to play a 7/8 ambush for 9. Like, that's just not something you can ever do. But if you play it for 6, that's really good, and that's like right on the turns where your opponent could have 3 or more space units pretty easily. So I'm gonna say that this is a tech card. This is something you'll side for super heavy space stacks. It's not a legendary, is it? Oh, it is a legendary. Ew, why is this a legendary? Man, they got the legendaries on the wrong cards again. Never tell me the odds. 3 costs, discard 3 cards from your opponent's deck and 3 cards from your deck. Deal damage to a unit equal to the number of cards with an odd cost discarded this way. Deal damage to a unit equal to the number of cards with an odd cost discarded this way. So the max you can get is 6 damage to 1 unit for 3? Is that ever worth it? I feel like that's bad, right? Especially because, like, your deck already is naturally going to have a lot of 2-drops because those are your first turn plays. Yeah, this card's just bad, unfortunately. Which is really disappointment. They burned Never Tell Me the Odds on a starter deck card that's bad. I hate when they do that. Like, we only got so many, like, cool lines. Don't burn them on stupid shit. Speaking of, it's a trap. If your opponent controls more space units than you, ready each space unit you control. This card is hilarious. It goes with the Admiral Akbar leader that is definitely not good, but it's hilarious the way the deck works. It's not good, guys. I'm sorry. It's cool, but it's not good. Someone's gonna catch me with this and I'm gonna be pissed, but yeah, it's not that great. The Mandalorian, 5 costs, double yellow. There was not many doubles in this set, was there? Maybe they haven't shown us those yet. 5/6 on 5. When played as a unit, exhausts up to 2 ground units. Alright, that's really good. Piloting for 2. Played as an upgrade, exhausts a unit in this arena. It's a +3/+1. This card's quite good. Interestingly, the piloting doesn't require double yellow. It's only 1. but then it only exhausts space. So I don't think you're ever playing this without being in double yellow. That being said, this card is really good. Double yellow Han fucking loves this card. This card is good. Yeah. I'm gonna put in commonly played. Are you always playing this in yellow? Is this better than Cantina Bouncer? Because that's like what it's fighting with, right? It's better statted than Cantina Bouncer by a lot. And has an alternate use. Should this be in 2 or 3 in most decks? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say commonly played. I'm realizing now I have way too many cards in commonly played. A lot of those probably should be moved down. Next we have Impudent Smuggler. 1 cost, 1/1 with raid, which is bad. Or it's a 1/1 pilot for 1 with raid 1, which is bad. Is bad. Boop. We have Boshek, 3 cost, 3/4 with no effect, or pilot for 2. When played as an upgrade, discard 2 cards from your deck, return each of those cards with an odd cost to your hand. Okay, so we did get a few more odd cost benefit cards. I do think we're short though. We need a few more for this to be good. Discard 2 cards. So potentially this is a 2 cost draw 2 with an upgrade or decent stats. This is a good card. This is a solid card. Commonly or rarely. Put Tiderium in rarely. It's gonna go next to Tiderium because it's got the same issue. Death Space Skirmisher. 3 cost, 3/3 when played. If you control another space unit, you may exhaust a unit. And that's fine, right? I feel like that's kind of mid though. I don't think this is good enough. I think that we already have cards that do similar things that cost less. Guerrilla Soldier, 3 cost, 2/3. When played, deal 3 indirect damage to a player. If a base is damaged, ready this unit. That's really good. For aggro specifically, I should specify. The reason that's so good against aggro is if you go first on the second action, you can play it. And if they don't have 3 damage worth of like character to absorb it, that's like 5 damage to base. It's fringe. This is gonna be a 2, but at the end of 2, because it's basically just for aggro, like Sabine yellow. Stolen AT Hauler, the most controversial legendary. 3 mana, 4/5. When defeated, choose an opponent for this phase. They may play that unit from its owner's discard pile for free. 1, this is hilarious in Twin Suns, but I do think this card will see play, specifically in like Sabine aggro, because a 3 mana 4/5 is really hard to deal with on turn 2, even though they might get it. Like obviously you don't want that. Like you can just switch to ground and try and kill them. I think the stats on this are worth it. I think this goes at the bottom of commonly played because I think aggro decks will play this card. We'll see. It's definitely way better than like Stolen Landspeeder because you get to attack with it first and your opponent has to deal with it. The Radiant 7. 7 cost, 5/6. Each enemy non-leader unit gets -1 for each damage on it. When played, deal 5 indirect damage to a player. What a weird freaking card. I think this is good, right? It's very similar to it's like a worse Snoke, where like you're like neutering all your opponent's cards, except it doesn't hit their health, but it does feel 5 indirect damage, which is not a small amount. I think this is good. I think it's like top of rarely played. I think it'll see some play, but not a lot. It's such a weird card. Electromagnetic Pulse. 1 cost, deal 2 damage to a droid or vehicle and exhaust it. It's a side deck card, pretty obviously. It's definitely not terrible. Exhausting something for 1 is quite strong. You just have to be playing against vehicles, basically. Commandeer. 5 cost Trick. Take control of a non-leader vehicle unit that costs 6 or less without a pilot in it. If you do, ready it. At the start of your next trigger phase, return that unit to its owner's hand. Whoa! This is good. Wait, what? It's removal, but you get to attack with it first? Why is this so good? This will be played. Is it a side deck or is it a main deck? This might be main deckable. That's so much damage and then they just have it bounce it to hand? Non-leader vehicle that costs 6 or less without a pilot. That is pretty specific. Man, that's hard. So here's the problem with this card. If the meta shifts to be mostly vehicles, it's up here. If it doesn't, it's down here. Which I think means it's in the middle. I'm going to put it top of rarely played by the, whatchamacallit. Next up, TIE Bomber. 2 cost 0 4. On attack, deal 3 indirect damage to a player. This card is kind of crazy. Because it's so hard to clear and it's an Imperial. Like, if you play this and they don't play a space unit against you, you're getting so much damage through. And it's going to stick around for so long. I think this card is up here for sure, but it's probably closer to commonly played. Put it right around in here somewhere. Because it does require other things to work, it's just the payoff is really big. TIE Dagger Vanguard, 3 cost, 2/2. When played, you may deal 2 damage to a damaged unit. Not good enough. Pretty easily not good enough. New Fire Spray, 4 mana, 4/4. When played on attack, deal 1 direct damage to a player. If you control Boba Fett, deal 2 indirect damage instead. Okay, so this is clearly, are you playing Boba Fett? If so, play card. If not, don't play card. Since it's leader dependent, I'm going to put it towards the top of rarely. Basically, it's just going to be like, that's not a knock on the card. Well, you know what? I changed my mind. We're going to put it at the bottom of commonly. Shuttle ST-149. 4 cost, 3/4 shielded. Pretty good stats. When played, when defeated, you may take control of a token upgrade on a unit and attach it to a different eligible unit. I don't think that's particularly good. Like, what token upgrades are you taking? Like, it's basically just like shields and mostly just going to be like upgrades. And it's when played, when defeated. I mean, taking an experience and putting it on something. I could see this being a side card. I'll put it in tech. Quasar TIE Carrier. 6 cost, 5/7 on attack. Create a TIE Fighter token. No, that's not good enough. Too expensive for something like that to be good. R2-D2. 1 cost, 1/4. Piloting for 0, which is pretty crazy. This upgrade can be played on a finely vehicle without a pilot on it. Attached unit gains. You may deploy 1 additional pilot on this unit. It's a 1/1. I mean, this is just broken in aggro, right? Like, it is a 0 cost 1/1. So think of it like Metal Ceremony, only you don't have to attack. You can just put it on there. This card is very good in aggro. I think this is going to be... Ooh, that might be 2 or 3 most decks type stuff. No, it's going to be high and commonly played. If you're playing aggro, you're probably playing it. Oh, there was a Falcon in here. 3 mana, 3/4. You may play 1 additional pilot on it. It gets 1/1 for each pet. Okay, but it's bad. Just... So it doesn't matter. Sabine's Masterpiece. This card's so cool. 3 mana, 3/3. On attack, if you control a blue unit, heal 2. Green unit, give an experience. Red unit, deal 1 damage. Yellow unit, exhaust or ready a resource. And this is a Spectre. So this goes with your Spectres. And basically the idea is you put a couple different ones out and all of a sudden you're triggering all of these. It's really cool. Unfortunately, Spectres probably aren't good enough to be like good. So this goes in rarely played. But the card, you know what? No. Man, I wish I had done these a little different. I didn't really do them power level wise. So it goes in rarely played just because obviously it's only played in a deck that isn't really meta. But it is a really cool card, and I'm really glad they made it. It's one of my favorite cards in the set. Tantive 6, 7 cost 5/7. Sentinel, when played, create an X-Wing. These are mostly just filler stuff. And then last card, we have Swarming Vulture Droid, which is a really cool card to end on because you can have 15 of it in your deck. And it gets +1 attack for each other friendly Swarming Vulture Droid. And then your opponent plays a Snoke, and all your Vulture Droids simultaneously explode. This is cute. I don't think it's good. Obviously, it's supposed to be played with the Invisible Hand because it can put them in play. But honestly, I think there's just better droids to play. So I don't think it's even good enough. Unfortunately, this card is bad. It is fun, though, and very cool. Alright, so here's my list. Looks like we have 6 format definers. Bunch of 2 or 3 ofs in a deck. Bunch of commonly playeds. Bunch of rarely playeds. Obviously, the fact that we have a lot of commonly playeds is surprising. I feel like this shouldn't be this high. I feel like Phasma and a couple of these should probably be in rarely played. But overall, I'm pretty satisfied with this list. Let's go back through here. I think Phasma could probably come down here. These are all fine. This is probably, well, this probably comes down here. Yeah, this is probably fine. I'm okay with this otherwise. But yeah, the big ones to look out for are these top 6 cards. These are cards you're going to see, like, just to find decks. Planetary is gross. Eject can be insane. I really like this Invisible Hand. That's kind of my call on a card that not a lot of people are looking at. And I don't think it's even close. The best card in the set is the one we did first. Krennic is broken. This card is so good. Yeah, this card's insane. This card I think is the best card in the set. But we'll see going forward. Honestly, overall, it's weird because like I feel like the power of this set effect-wise isn't really that strong. Like there aren't a lot of good effects, but there's a lot of better stats. So we'll have to see how that ends up kind of balancing. But yeah, we went through all. There's a couple more cards still to preview. I did most of them. But yeah, feel free to check out the channel again. Please like, subscribe, and if I end up changing anything, I'll probably change a few things and do another one right as the set comes out. We'll switch some stuff around. Plus, I do want to rate the new cards as they come out as well. And yeah, so good luck. Have a nice afternoon, and I hope you all enjoyed the video. Bye-bye.